All right, everyone, what we're going to be talking about right now is proper clockwork, okay? When you hear how myself and other instructors are teaching, we try to make it simplified so you understand this. And you have to understand clockwork. Some instructors, they teach it by the numbers, like high noon, low six. You got your in-between, from where you're looking at, you got noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way around the board. Some instructors, they teach by direction, north, south, east, west, and the in-betweens. Some instructors, they teach by the degree marks. So you have 0 or 360 degree, then you got your 45, you got your 90 degree, 180, and stuff like that. Every instructor might teach a little bit differently. We try to encompass all of them together so you have a better understanding on how to actually execute the techniques. Now I'm going to try to break this down as easy as possible. So what you want to remember, you're going to have imaginary clocks, 2 of them, that are always around you. One of them is always in front of you. No matter where you turn and look, it's right there. You'll have this clock that circles around you like this. And you have high noon, and you got 1, 2, 3, all the way around. What this clock in front of your face, as though it's mounted to a wall, when we're teaching clockwork, what this clock indicates is which way you're going to block, punch, or kick, okay, to what level of angle that you're going to kick. For instance, if I say you're going to block to 2 o'clock with a outward block, so you're going to block maybe high, or to 3 o'clock. So it just depends. Upward block to high noon, down block, X block to low 6, and so forth. The second clock that is always around you is on the floor, okay? Wherever you are. So if you look at me, I'm always facing 12 o'clock. That's where you are right now. Behind me, 6 o'clock. And if you imagine this clock, if you're standing directly in the center of that clock, it will always go wherever you're turning. That's where 12 o'clock is, until otherwise told. And we're about to explain that here in a moment. So wherever you're facing, if I'm facing right here, that's my 12 o'clock. Okay, when I'm teaching you, that's my starting point, per se, on the technique. If I'm teaching right here, there's my 12 o'clock, where you are right now. Okay, but that is when nobody is actually grabbing you. They have their hands on you. So this clock on the floor that you're standing on deals with just that, floor work. It deals with your footsteps. And so if I say right foot, stepping back to 6 o'clock, I'm going to take my right foot and I'm going to step back to my 6 o'clock. Okay? So where we are right now, we're kind of switched around. It would be where you're facing, this would be your right. Okay? If I was to do mirror image teaching. And your 3 o'clock would be over here, and your 9 o'clock would be here. But it's reversed in my position because I'm teaching you this way. Okay? So again, if I was to say step out into a horse stance to 3 o'clock, I'm going to step out into a horse stance to 3 o'clock if I was looking mirrored image teaching the way you are. Okay? All right? So this is actually my 9 o'clock, but it's your 3 o'clock, the way you're looking at the video right now. And then I could do whatever I want, upward block to high noon or downward block to low 6, whatever. So this is how the clockwork is described in our self-defense techniques. If I say step back or step over to 45, your 45 degree angle, which would be your right side 45, that would be actually about 2:30 if you look at a clock. So if I'm stepping out with my right foot to my 45 degree angle, okay, it would be about my 2:30. If I was to say that this is my 12 o'clock position and you're my 6 o'clock, if I stepped out to my 45 degree angle, that's about 2:30, right between 2 and 3, right? So I'm sorry, about 1:30. My mistake. Okay, I had to think about that, how I was talking. But you kind of get the idea. And that's kind of the general idea about teaching the clockwork. Okay, as we continue, we're now bringing someone in. This is Mr. Anderson, Nathan Anderson. He's one of my black belts. So what we're doing is we're going to continue talking about proper clockwork, okay? Understanding how to step, how to block, and so forth when we describe the techniques on any of the self-defense that we teach you guys. So right now, looking at you, you're at my 12 o'clock. Mr. Anderson here is directly at my 9 o'clock. My 9 o'clock. He's on my left side. Okay? So the clock, like I said, there's two clocks. There's one that's always in front of you, no matter where you're facing. That's where that clock always is. And also, wherever you're standing, that's where that 12 o'clock position will be, unless otherwise told. And here's where it stops. Here's where the clock on the floor stops. When the technique begins. For instance, let's switch first on sparring. Just one-on-one. We're squared off. We're about to duke it out. Maybe street combat, whatever we're dealing with. All right, in a tournament or whatever. He is always going to be at my 12 o'clock. I'm always going to be his 12 o'clock, no matter what. So when he's moving, he's always, that clock never stops, and that 12 will still be directly in front of me, okay? And on sparring, in reality, I want to keep him right there at my 12. I don't want him to go over. I don't want him to shift angles to me and try to get behind me. That's a danger zone for me, okay? So when you're in combat and you're not doing self-defense, all that clock will continuously move wherever you are. That 12 o'clock. It's when he starts to strike or when he grabs me that the self-defense begins like that, and the clock freezes in place. So, for example, okay, when we were teaching something as simple as crashing elbows, okay, which is a white belt technique. So let's just say, for instance, Mr. Anderson decides to go ahead and start to strike. My clock is going to freeze at 12. So where my foot position, where I'm turning, where I'm blocking, I can then describe that to you. Okay, for instance, as he's punching to his 12, I could step out to my 2 o'clock and do whatever kind of technique it is. Okay, it doesn't have to be crashing elbows. It could be anything. Okay, or if he comes in and steps again, I can step out to my clockwork froze. 12 o'clock is where he began, and my movement, I stepped out to my 9 o'clock, and I did an outside block, or I grabbed his arm at my 3 o'clock, doing whatever I need to do, continuing that motion. The second part is this. If it's not against a strike, kick, punch, knife technique, whatever, okay? Upon him grabbing me is where the clock freezes, okay? I'm always looking at 12 o'clock, my direction, 12 o'clock on the ground, not up high. So if I'm right here, he's at my 9 o'clock. So if he reaches over and grabs my shoulder, my clock stops. So when I'm teaching you guys, or when you're listening to any instruction given, the clock on the ground froze so that I can explain the technique. So he grabs my shoulder, he's at my 9 o'clock. There's always 9. There is always 12 o'clock where you guys are. Okay, so if this is the case, something as simple as beggar, I'm going to turn my body to my 9 o'clock, just a simple technique, grab my opponent's hand, roll him to 12 o'clock, okay, bringing him back towards you. He's still at my 9. I'm going to change step, so my left foot goes back to 3, and then I throw that back leg roundhouse into his leg, okay? If he sneaks up behind me and he grabs me, the clock freezes. 12 o'clock, he's at my 6 o'clock. I can do whatever, such as on backstroke, I turn towards heels at 6 o'clock and execute whatever kind of technique I want to do. That clock freezes until the techniques that are given are complete, and then the clock moves again. Okay, so that is simple techniques upon learning how we define our clock work, the angles, and so forth. I hope this helps you guys out, understanding more clearly how to define these self-defense techniques. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to click on the subscribe button on the YouTube channel for more videos like this. And if you have any questions about our programs, please go to tongillo.com and click on Contact Us.